Ever get that feeling that your message, no matter how important it feels to you, just isn't quite getting through?
Mm.
Like you're speaking one language and, well, everyone else is flown in something completely different.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
What if there was a way to sort of instantly connect? To, become that person whose ideas just naturally land?
Well, that really brings us right to the heart of what we're exploring today. It's this powerful idea of understanding and speaking directly to what genuinely matters to other people.
Right.
Dale Carnegie had that great quote, "The only way on earth to influence other people is to talk about what they want and show them how to get it."
Exactly. And that's really our mission for this deep dive, isn't it? To get under the skin of this principle.
Hmm.
We'll look at why it's so effective, how you can actually use it in, well, pretty much everywhere, business, personal life.
Yeah, all aspects.
And we've even got a really fascinating real-world story later that kind of brings it all together. We're drawing on Carnegie's wisdom, of course, but also some solid real-world examples.
So let's start right there, the fundamental why. Why is focusing on someone else's interests so powerful?
Well, fundamentally, it taps into something just deeply human, doesn't it?
Mm.
Like Carnegie pointed out, and it's almost funny how true it is. People are not interested in you. They are not interested in me. They're interested in themselves morning, noon, and after dinner.
Huh. Yeah, it sounds blunt, but
But it's true. He even mentioned that old New York telephone company study about how often we use the word I.
oh, right.
And think about it. You look at a group photo, whose face do you look for first? It's always your own, right?
Guilty as charged.
Yeah.
It's instinct.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing is that immediate shift in attention you get when you actually focus outwards. Well, by talking about what they value, you instantly cut through all the noise in their head, their own thoughts and priorities. You're basically signaling, hey, I get you. I see your perspective.
Ah, okay. And from that initial connection, I guess a lot follows.
Absolutely. It's like a chain reaction. First, you grab their actual attention, like undivided attention.
Because you're talking their language.
Exactly. They lean in. Second, it really helps you understand them better. You can tailor what you're saying so it actually resonates, like precisely.
Makes sense.
And third, you start building a real connection, showing you genuinely care about what matters to them. That builds rapport, trust, which is, essential.
So essential. But what about the other side? What happens if we kind of ignore this?
Well, yeah, there are some pretty significant downsides.
Oh, what?
Firstly, you just lose their interest completely. If you only talk about yourself, your agenda,
Mm-hmm.
people just tune out, mentally check out.
Uh-huh. Eyes glaze over.
Exactly. Secondly, you miss opportunities. Big ones, sometimes. If you don't understand what they actually need, how can you offer a real solution?
Point.
And finally, you can actually damage relationships. Being self-centered all the time, it just erodes trust and makes people less willing to, cooperate down the line.
Yeah, I could see that.
Yeah.
Can we maybe make this more concrete? Like with an example?
Sure. Think about Disney marketing a new ride.
Okay.
They could talk all about the amazing engineering, the G-forces, the speed stuff they're proud of, their
The
interests.
technical specs?
But would that really pull in the families they want? Probably not most of them.
Probably not.
But when they shift focus, talk about the shared fun, the adventure, the laughter, the memories the family creates together, that's the customer's interest.
Ah, okay. That clicks. That's speaking their language.
Precisely. It hits home.
So, okay, we've got their attention by focusing on what's in it for them.
Yeah.
But how do we take it a step further? How do we actually, motivate them to do something?
Right. Good question. That brings us to this idea of arousing an eager want.
An eager want.
Yeah, there was this observer of human nature, Harry A. Overstreet, and Carnegie quoted him a lot on this. He said, "Action springs out of what we fundamentally desire. First, arouse in the other person an eager want."
Okay, let's unpack that. So it's not just acknowledging interests, it's digging deeper
Yeah.
into, core desires.
Exactly. We're talking about those fundamental drivers wanting to save time, make more money, get recognition, feel important, maybe just feel good, things like that.
Got it. The real motivators.
Yes. And once you understand those, you can frame your message, whatever it is, to show how you help them get that. You connect what you offer directly to what they deeply crave.
And that obviously has some big advantages.
Oh, huge. First, you see a big jump in motivation. When people see a clear path from what you're offering to what they really want, they're way more likely to act.
Makes sense.
Second, they're more willing to cooperate. If they see a real personal benefit in working with you or agreeing with you, the barriers come down.
Mm-hmm.
And third, It just makes you way more persuasive, appealing to those core desires. That's influence right there.
Okay, but failing to ignite that eager want, I assume that means things just fall flat.
Pretty much, yeah. First, you just get no engagement. If your message doesn't connect to their desires, why would they care?
Right, crickets.
Exactly. Second, persuasion becomes really, really hard. Your attempts just won't land if you haven't tapped into what drives them. And third, you just get stalled. Any project, any idea that needs buy-in, it just won't get off the ground if you haven't motivated people by showing them what they get out of it.
Can you give us an example of maybe a company that's really good at creating this eager want?
Well, think about something like YouTube. Their recommendation algorithm.
Oh yeah, it knows me scarily well.
Right. And it's not random. It's designed to learn your interests, your history, your searches, what you like.
My interests.
So by constantly showing you stuff that aligns with what you've already shown you like, they create that eager want to click the next video, to keep watching.
It's addictive sometimes.
Because they've tapped into our desires, entertainment, learning, connection, whatever it is for you. They've masterfully created that urge.
Okay, so we get why focusing on others works. Now let's flip it again.
Yeah.
What's the real cost of just talking about ourselves all the time?
Yeah, the sources we looked at had some almost funny examples of this. Bad advertising letters.
Oh.
Yeah, filled with stuff like, our company desires, or we want to service our accounts. It's all we. Zero thought for the customer.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I can picture those. Total turnoff.
Yeah.
All about the sender's needs.
And the point is, the person reading it just doesn't care about the company's desires. They care about their problems, their challenges.
Right.
Like the source material says, thousands of salespeople are pounding the pavements, thinking only of what they want. Neither you nor I want to buy anything. Both of us are eternally interested in solving our problems.
That really cuts to the chase, doesn't it? We're all trying to solve our own puzzles. Why would we care about someone else's self-talk?
Exactly. And consciously avoiding that self-centered approach. It has clear benefits.
Such as?
Better customer relations, for one. Focus on their needs, you build stronger relationships. Simple as that.
Yeah.
Second, more sales, if that's the context. Solve their problems, they're more likely to buy.
Makes sense.
And third, just a better reputation overall. People and companies seen as helpful and focused on others, they're trusted more, valued more.
And the flip side, being self-centered. What are the consequences there?
Well, first, unhappy customers. Ignore their needs, focus only on you. They won't stick around.
Right. Dissatisfaction.
Second, lost business. If you don't solve their problems, they'll find someone who will. Simple.
Yep.
And third, just a negative image. Constantly talking about yourself comes across as, well, arrogant, out of touch, uncaring even.
Can you give us another company example? Someone who really gets this shift away from being self-centered.
Think about Nike. They could market shoes by just talking about the tech, the materials, the stuff they find interesting as makers.
Just features, yeah.
But they don't, do they? They talk about the runner's interests. Better performance, fewer injuries, hitting your personal best.
The benefits to the runner.
Exactly. They connect the product directly to the runner's goals, their challenges, their aspirations. It's about solving the runner's problem, not just showing off their cool shoe tech.
Got it. So it's always about the other person's world.
Yeah.
Okay, now that we've really nailed down this core idea, how does it play out in specific areas? Let's start with sales.
Okay, sales. Yeah, this is obviously crucial territory for this principle.
You don't think so?
Absolutely. The sources actually mention this real estate agent who kind of blew a deal.
Oh, wow.
By pushing insurance on a client before even addressing their main need, finding the right house.
Ouch. Missed the mark completely.
Totally. The lesson is clear. In sales, your focus has to be on how your product or service helps the customer achieve their goals, solve their problem.
So practically speaking, what should a salesperson be doing? What are the steps?
It really starts with genuine curiosity. First, ask good questions. Not just surface stuff, but really dig into their challenges, their goals, what success looks like for them.
Okay, deep questions.
Second, listen. Like, really listen. Not just the words, but the tone, what's between the lines. Show you're actually interested.
Active listening. Got it.
And third, talk benefits, not just features. Don't just say, our software does X. Explain how X solves their specific problem or helps them reach their goal. Like, this feature saves you 5 hours a week, so you can focus on why.
Connecting the dots for them. And if salespeople actually do this consistently, what's the payoff?
Well, higher closing rates, for starters. When your pitch is tailored because you understand them, you're much more likely to succeed.
Makes sense.
Second, you build real long-term relationships. Trust, loyalty. That leads to repeat business, referrals. It's huge.
Right, not just one-off transactions.
Exactly. And finally, happier customers. If you actually meet their needs, solve their problems, they're satisfied, they become advocates.
And conversely, the salesperson stuck in their own world, talking about their quota, their product features.
Yeah, they're going to struggle. Lower closing rates, more lost sales. Why? Because they didn't connect, didn't address the actual need. They'll face more objections, too, because concerns weren't heard or addressed.
Yeah.
And ultimately, a poor reputation. Customers who feel ignored or misunderstood, they're definitely not going to recommend you.
Okay, that paints a very clear picture for sales. Now, let's pivot to marketing. How does this principle apply there?
Well, marketing at its best is all about connection.
Ideally, yes.
And you build that connection by deeply understanding your audience, their needs, their desires, their pain points, and speaking directly to those things. It's always benefits over features.
So again, less about what our product does and more about how this makes your life better.
Precisely. Take a phone camera. Don't just say 20 megapixels. Say capture stunning pro-quality photos to preserve your precious memories. See? It connects to the user's desire.
Yeah, much more compelling.
Yeah.
So what are the key actions for marketers then?
It absolutely starts with research. Dub research, not just demographics, age, location, but psychographics. What do they value? What are they struggling with? What do they aspire to?
Understanding the why behind the who.
Exactly. Then craft all your messaging around benefits. Every ad, every email, every social post, how does it help them?
Benefit driven. Got it.
And finally, use storytelling. Stories about how others like them overcame challenges or achieved goals using your product. That resonates deeply. It taps into their own hopes.
And the payoff for marketers who nail this.
Huge engagement. Messages that speak to interests get attention, they get shared, people interact.
Which should lead to
Better conversion rates.
Yeah.
When the message resonates, people take the action you want them to take, buy, sign up, whatever it is.
Right.
And long term, stronger brand loyalty. Customers feel understood, they feel valued, they stick with you.
And the marketing that's just company focused. Look how great we are.
It just falls flat. Low engagement, people ignore it.
So, wasted money.
Pretty much. Poor ROI. And you just don't build that connection. Customers don't feel seen by a brand that only talks about itself.
It seems so logical when we lay it out,
Yeah.
but it's amazing how often we forget it. Okay, let's broaden out even more. How does this apply in just our everyday personal lives? Building relationships.
Oh, it's just as crucial there, maybe even more so. Carnegie really stressed this, cultivating a genuine interest in other people.
Right.
He told that great story about the magician, Howard Thurston.
Oh, the magician. Yeah, remind me.
Thurston apparently credited a lot of his success to his genuine interest in his audience. He'd stand backstage and kind of pump himself up, telling himself,
Something like, I'm grateful these people are here. I need to give them my absolute best.
exactly that. It's about genuinely valuing the other person, their time, their experience, not just focusing on your performance.
So how does that translate to, say, talking with a friend or family member?
It comes down to a few key things. Really listening, encouraging them to talk about themselves, their passions, their day.
Being a good listener. Seems basic, but hard sometimes.
It is. And asking open-ended questions. Questions that show you're actually curious about their life, not just waiting for your turn to talk. And consciously focusing on their accomplishments, their perspectives, showing appreciation, valuing what they bring.
And the rewards for doing that in personal life.
Stronger friendships, definitely. Deeper connections. Better family relationships, too. Understanding strengthens those bonds. And interestingly, you actually become more influential yourself. People listen more to those they feel genuinely care about them.
And the downside of being the person who only talks about themselves at parties or family gatherings.
Well, people feel unheard, unimportant, ignored.
Yeah, that's not a good feeling.
It really damages trust and connection. Those self-centered conversations, they just weaken relationships over time. People feel drained.
Right.
And ultimately, it can lead to social isolation. If you only talk about yourself, it's hard to build those deep, meaningful connections everyone needs.
It really highlights that connection is a two-way street, built on actually seeing and hearing the other person. Okay, this is all making so much sense. Now, to really hammer this home, you mentioned a story. An entrepreneur's journey.
Yes, this is a really great illustration of the whole principle in action, showing the transformation possible. Let's call him Alex, a tech entrepreneur, brilliant guy, great product idea,
But
but he really struggled initially. Sales were slow. His team wasn't really firing on all cylinders. Why? Because his focus was almost entirely inward on his tech, his vision.
okay, classic case of what we've been discussing.
Exactly. But then he had this realization and made a conscious shift, a huge effort to focus on the interests of others, both inside and outside his company.
Let's break that down. How did it change things inside the company first with his team?
Okay, take motivating employees.
Yeah.
Before, he'd just sort of dictate tasks based on his priorities, what he needed done,
Right, cop down.
which led to, low morale. But then he started taking time to understand their career goals. How did this project help them grow? He connected the work to their interests.
As a result.
Much more motivation. People felt seen, invested. It completely changed the energy compared to the resentment he sometimes faced before.
Okay, that's huge. What about getting team buy-in for new ideas?
Initially, it was very much, here's my idea, this is what we're doing. His interest, his vision.
Which probably met resistance.
Often, yeah. Or just passive agreement. So he shifted. He
Yeah.
started actively asking for their input first, making them feel their ideas mattered, that they were shaping the direction, their interests were considered.
It's just shared ownership.
Exactly, which led to way more enthusiasm and better execution versus the foot dragging he saw before.
What about just day-to-day communication, team meetings?
Used to be mostly Alex updating everyone on his stuff, his interests.
A monologue.
Pretty much. He flipped it.
Huh?
Started making meetings about listening, what are their challenges, what are their ideas. Their interests became the focus.
And that led to?
Better problem solving, definitely. A stronger team feel, people felt heard, which, again, was a big change.
Makes sense. How about handling conflict? Always tricky.
His old way was basically deciding based on his judgment, his desire to just fix it quickly. His interest was resolution fast,
Often leaving someone unhappy, I bet.
usually. So he learned to really understand each person's perspective first. What were their underlying needs? Find the common ground that addressed both their interests.
More sustainable solution.
Absolutely. Much more constructive, less lingering resentment than his old kind of unilateral way.
And fostering innovation. That must have changed too.
Big time. Initially, he controlled the creative direction very tightly. His vision, his interest,
Understandable, but maybe limiting.
very. He realized he had to let go a bit, encourage their ideas, let them run with things they were passionate about, things that aligned with their expertise and interests.
Unleashing their potential.
Precisely. It created a much more dynamic, innovative vibe than the controlled atmosphere before.
Wow. So a massive internal shift just by focusing on his team's interests. What about outside the company? How did this change his external dealings?
Just as dramatically. Take attracting investors. His first pitches were all about the tech specs, the product features, his interest, his baby.
Which maybe wasn't what investors cared about most.
Often not. They care about returns, market size, the team, their interests. Once Alex learned to speak their language, highlighting how the business met their priorities,
He got the funding.
he did. It made all the difference compared to his earlier, less successful attempts.
Critical. Okay, what about customers? Building loyalty.
Early on, it was push the product, close the sale. His interests.
Transactional.
Very. He shifted to really understanding the customer's pain. How does this product solve your specific problem? How does it deliver value to you? Focusing on their interests.
And that built loyalty.
Absolutely. It created partnerships, not just sales. Customers felt understood, valued, a world away from just being sold to.
How about negotiating with suppliers? Usually about price, right?
Yeah. That was his old focus. Lowest price possible, his interest, which often strained things.
Yeah, I can imagine.
He started trying to understand their needs too, their challenges. It led to more collaborative win-win relationships, sustainable partnerships built on mutual interest, not just squeezing the price.
Makes sense for the long term, partnering with other businesses.
Same shift. Initially it was, what can you do for me? His interest first.
Didn't work so well.
Not really. He learned to look for genuine mutual benefit. How can we both win by working together? Aligning both sets of interests. That led to much stronger, more fruitful partnerships.
And finally, PR, public image.
His early stuff was all, look at our cool product, look at our achievements, his company's interests.
A bit self-promotional.
Yeah. He learned to frame the company story around broader public values, societal needs, things the public cared about, their interests. That built a much more positive image and goodwill.
So it really sounds like Alex completely turned things around, inside and out.
He absolutely did. By consistently applying this one core principle, shifting focus from himself to others, he took a struggling startup and built it into, as the source puts it, a financial giant. His success was directly tied to that shift.
That's an incredibly powerful illustration. It really shows this isn't just, a nice-to-have communication tip. It's fundamental.
It really is. Making that conscious choice focus on their interests, not just yours, unlocks so much. Attention, cooperation, trust, strong relationships. It applies everywhere.
So the big takeaway, the action item for everyone listening, seems pretty straightforward, doesn't it?
I think so. In your next conversation, your next meeting, your next email, just try it. Make a deliberate effort to speak their language. Focus on what genuinely matters to them.
You might just be surprised at the difference it makes.
Absolutely. And that really brings us to a final thought for everyone listening today. Building on Alex's story. Think about one area in your own life. Just one. Could be work, could be personal. Where could shifting your focus, really consciously focusing on the other person's interests, where could that potentially lead to a really positive change for you?
What would that look like? And what's maybe one small step you could take starting today to explore that?
Something to definitely mull over.
Really valuable food for thought indeed. Thank you for taking this deep dive with us today. Ever get that feeling that your message, no matter how important it feels to you, just isn't quite getting through? Like you're speaking one language and everyone else is flown in something completely different.
Yeah, I know that feeling.
What if there was a way to sort of instantly connect? To, become that person whose ideas just naturally land?
Well, that really brings us right to the heart of what we're exploring today. It's this powerful idea of understanding and speaking directly to what genuinely matters to other people.
Right.
Dale Carnegie had that great quote, "The only way on earth to influence other people is to talk about what they want and show them how to get it."
Exactly. And that's really our mission for this deep dive, isn't it? To get under the skin of this principle. We'll look at why it's so effective, how you can actually use it in, well, pretty much everywhere, business, personal life.
Yeah, all aspects.
And we've even got a really fascinating real-world story later that kind of brings it all together. We're drawing on Carnegie's wisdom, of course, but also some solid real-world examples.
So let's start right there, the fundamental why. Why is focusing on someone else's interests so powerful?
Well, fundamentally, it taps into something just deeply human, doesn't it? Like Carnegie pointed out, and it's almost funny how true it is. People are not interested in you. They are not interested in me. They're interested in themselves morning, noon, and after dinner.
Yeah, it sounds blunt, but...
But it's true. He even mentioned that old New York telephone company study about how often we use the word I.
Oh, right.
And think about it. You look at a group photo, whose face do you look for first? It's always your own, right?
Guilty as charged.
Yeah.
It's instinct.
Yeah.
So the interesting thing is that immediate shift in attention you get when you actually focus outwards. Well, by talking about what they value, you instantly cut through all the noise in their head, their own